Ethan Cole stared at the email on his cracked phone screen, barely believing what he saw. "Congratulations, your ticket has been upgraded to first class." For a second, he thought it was spam. But it wasn't. It was real. After 2 years of fixing other people's cars, sleeping on worn-out couches, and raising his son alone since his wife's accident, something finally went right. He stood there at JFK Airport, the crowd rushing around him, yet for once, the world seemed to slow down. First class. He hadn't heard those words in years, not since the life he once had disappeared overnight. Ethan wasn't rich, not even close. Every dollar he saved went toward his boys' school or the endless bills that never stopped coming. But this trip to London wasn't about money or leisure. It was about breathing again, proving to himself he could still live, still smile, still move forward without feeling guilty. As he stepped onto the plane, his hand shook slightly. The leather seat was softer than anything he'd touched in years. A flight attendant smiled, offering champagne. He declined, clutching his old backpack like it held his whole life. For a brief, fragile moment, Ethan allowed himself to hope. Maybe fate hadn't forgotten him after all. Maybe this was life's quiet way of saying, "You've suffered enough. It's time for something good." He leaned back, closed his tired eyes, and exhaled slowly. For the first time in a long time, Ethan Cole wasn't just surviving, he was finally on his way to living again. Ethan Cole had just started to settle into his seat, the faint hum of the engines filling the cabin with a comforting rhythm. He was about to close his eyes when a small commotion near the front caught his attention. A sharp voice, a nervous laugh, and then 2 tiny figures appeared in the aisle, struggling to balance oversized pink backpacks that looked heavier than they were. 2 little girls, identical, maybe 7 years old. Golden curls framed their round faces, and wide hazel eyes darted around the cabin like frightened birds. One clutched a stuffed bunny so tight its ears bent backward. The other rubbed her eyes, fighting sleep and tears. They looked lost, fragile, and far too small for the chaos surrounding them. Behind them came a young woman, clearly overwhelmed, juggling a pile of bags while speaking rapidly to a flight attendant. Her name tag caught the light. Sophie, the nanny. Her voice trembled with frustration and fear. "Please, there must be a mistake," Sophie said. "The booking confirmation showed 3 seats together. They can't sit alone in economy. They're children. They're twins." The flight attendant frowned apologetically, holding a tablet close to her chest. "I'm terribly sorry, ma'am, but the system shows only 1 seat available in economy. The other 2 seats are marked invalid due to an overbooking error. First class is full. There's nowhere else to place them." Sophie's eyes widened in disbelief. "You don't understand. Their mother will fire me if anything happens. She trusted me with them. I can't leave them alone." The twins glanced up at her, sensing her panic, and their faces crumpled. The one with the bunny whimpered softly. The other whispered, "I want mommy." A quiet ripple moved through first class. Passengers exchanged uncomfortable glances, pretending not to care but clearly listening. Ethan felt a twist in his chest. He recognized that tone of fear. It was the same voice his son used to have after his wife's funeral. The same trembling need for safety when the world seemed too big. Sophie knelt beside the girls, trying to calm them, but her hands were shaking. "It's okay, sweethearts. We'll figure it out." She turned to the attendant again. "Can't we swap with someone? I'll pay extra. Anything? I'm afraid the system doesn't allow mid-flight seat reallocation without passenger consent." The attendant replied gently, "We're doing what we can, but rules are rules." Rules. Ethan had heard enough of that word to last a lifetime. Rules had kept him from taking time off to see his dying wife. Rules had forced him to work double shifts while his son learned to walk without him. He looked at the girls again. Chloe's tiny hand trembled as she held her bunny. Claire's lower lip quivered. They didn't belong in a fight between rules and responsibility. Sophie stood there frozen, torn between panic and guilt. She whispered to herself, "If I leave them, I'll lose my job. If I don't, I'll break the rules." Ethan could feel the entire cabin watching now. Some passengers sighed impatiently. Others looked away, uncomfortable. The attendant's polite smile was fading into helplessness. Ethan, upon noticing twins in distress, offers his first-class seat to them despite being advised against it. He reassures them, and the twins express their gratitude. As Ethan moves to economy, he reflects on the importance of kindness, feeling unexpectedly lighthearted. Ethan did not think. He just moved. The quiet click of his seatbelt echoed through the cabin as he stood up. Heads turned. A businessman frowned. A woman in pearls looked offended, and a flight attendant froze mid-step. Ethan's calm voice cut through the confusion. "They can have my seat," he said simply. For a second, no one reacted. Then Sophie blinked, stunned, her eyes wide and wet. "Sir, you don't have to do that," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan looked at the two girls, their small faces streaked with tears. "Yeah, I do," he said softly. "They need it more than I do." The flight attendant hesitated. "Sir, this is first class. You have a right to stay here." "I know," Ethan replied with a small smile. "But I also know what it's like to fly with a child who just wants to feel safe. Trust me, this seat will mean more to them than to me." There was a pause. The hum of the engines filled the silence. Passengers exchanged glances, unsure whether to admire him or call him crazy. Sophie swallowed hard. "I don't even know your name." "Ethan," he said. "Just Ethan." She nodded, her lip trembling. "Thank you, Ethan." "I mean it," he shrugged. "You don't have to thank me. Just get them settled. That's thanks enough." He bent down and smiled at the twins. "You two like window seats?" Both girls nodded shyly. The one with the stuffed bunny whispered, "Are you an angel?" Ethan chuckled softly. "Nah, sweetheart. Just a tired guy who likes good people to be comfortable." Chloe giggled. Claire hid her face behind her bunny. For the first time since boarding, their laughter rippled through the cabin, light and pure. As Sophie guided the girls to his seat, Ethan grabbed his worn backpack and started walking down the aisle toward economy. His boots brushed against the soft carpet of first class, and for a moment, he felt the strange contrast between luxury and reality. The curtains separating the two cabins loomed ahead. Behind him, people whispered, some out of admiration, others out of disbelief. One man muttered, "Nobody does that anymore." Ethan smiled to himself. Maybe that was the problem with the world. Too many people waiting for someone else to do the right thing. He stepped through the curtain and into the narrow aisle of economy, where the air felt heavier and the seats tighter. He slid into an empty middle seat between two strangers who barely looked up from their phones. His knees pressed against the tray table, but he didn't care. He leaned back, exhaled, and looked out the small window beside him. The clouds outside were starting to glow pink in the setting sun. Up front, Sophie was tucking the twins into their seats. She looked back once, and when their eyes met, she mouthed, "Thank you." He nodded silently. It wasn't about comfort. It never was. He remembered his last trip with his son, Ryan. His wife had just passed away, and the boy had been scared of flying. Ethan had traded seats with a stranger so Ryan could sit by the window. He still remembered how small Ryan's hand felt when it slipped into his now, looking at the twins. He felt that same ache in his chest, the ache of love, of loss, of understanding what it means to be a parent who simply wants their child to feel safe. A gentle voice interrupted his thoughts. The flight attendant had come to check on him. "Sir, we'd like to offer you a drink for your kindness," she said kindly. Ethan requested water and felt a sense of peace as the plane took off. Kindness lightened his burden, and he connected with a photo of his son, feeling hopeful and proud. The tires screeched against the runway as the plane touched down at Heathrow. The cabin lights flickered on, and passengers stirred awake, gathering their bags, stretching, sighing with the relief of landing. Ethan Cole stayed seated for a moment, staring at the window, watching the morning fog roll across the tarmac. He felt good, not in a dramatic, life-changing way, just quietly good. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you did the right thing, even if no one else noticed. He stood, grabbed his battered backpack, and joined the slow shuffle toward the exit. As he stepped out of the tunnel into the bright terminal, he saw her. A woman in a perfectly tailored Navy suit stood near the arrival gate, flanked by two airline staff members. Her posture was straight, her arms crossed. She looked like someone used to being obeyed, the kind of woman who carried both elegance and authority in her presence. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her heels clicked sharply against the floor as she paced. She was scanning every face that passed, searching for someone. When Ethan approached, the twins spotted him first. "Ethan!" Chloe shouted, her voice echoing through the terminal. Claire waved her bunny in excitement. The woman turned. Her gaze followed the sound, sharp and assessing. Then her eyes landed on him. "You're Ethan Cole?" she asked, her tone steady but commanding. Ethan hesitated, caught off guard. Yes, ma'am, that's me." For a second, her expression was unreadable. Then something shifted. The rigid mask of professionalism cracked just enough for warmth to slip through. She exhaled softly, almost in relief. She stepped closer, her heels echoing with each stride. Up close, she was striking mid-30s, intelligent eyes, the kind of beauty that didn't beg for attention but demanded respect. "I'm Olivia Grant," she said, "CEO of Silver Sky Airlines." "And the mother of those two little girls?" Ethan blinked. He glanced at the twins, now clutching Sophie's hand, smiling shyly. He looked back at the woman. "You're their mother?" "Yes," she said, her lips curving into the faintest smile. "And you, Mr. Cole, gave up your first-class seat for them?" Ethan scratched the back of his neck. It wasn't a big deal. They were scared. "I just wanted to help." Olivia tilted her head, studying him. "Do you know how rare that is? People don't give things up for strangers anymore, especially not something as expensive as a first-class seat." Ethan chuckled awkwardly. "I guess I'm not most people." "That much is clear," she said softly. For a long moment, they just stood there. The noise of the airport faded around them, announcements, luggage wheels, chatter all muted under the weight of the strange connection forming between two people from entirely different worlds. Sophie approached, leading the twins. "Mrs. Grant, I'm so sorry about the confusion earlier. It was a booking error." Olivia held up a hand gently. "It's all right. Sophie, you did your best." Then she looked at Ethan again. "You didn't know who they were, did you?" He shook his head. "No. Just two tired kids and a worried nanny. That's all I saw." Her eyes softened even more. "That's exactly why this matters." Ethan frowned slightly, unsure how to respond. "I really didn't expect anything in return." "I know," Olivia replied. "That's what makes it meaningful." The twins tugged at her blazer. "Mommy, he's the nice man who gave us his seat. Can we say thank you again?" Olivia smiled for real this time, a warmth blooming that made her seem less like a CEO and more like a mother. "Of course you can." Chloe ran forward and hugged Ethan around the waist, nearly knocking him off balance. "Thank you, Mr. Ethan," she said with a grin. Claire giggled, hugging him too. "You're our hero." Ethan knelt, patting their backs awkwardly but fondly. "You two be good for your mom, okay?" They nodded eagerly. Olivia expressed her gratitude and curiosity to Ethan, giving him her office card and a promise of support for kindness shown. He hesitated to accept, but she reminded him of the impact he made. Both felt their connection remained unresolved. For a moment, Ethan thought he had misheard her. The noise of the airport seemed to fade away, swallowed by the weight of her words. "I'm Olivia Grant," the woman repeated, her tone calm but sharp enough to slice through the air. "CEO of Silver Sky Airlines, and the mother of those two little girls." Ethan blinked, his lips parting in disbelief. The twins' mother? The CEO of the very airline he had flown on? The woman whose company name was printed in silver letters on every boarding pass and coffee cup? He straightened instinctively, unsure what to say. "You're the CEO?" Olivia nodded, her expression poised, her presence magnetic. "Yes, and you, Mr. Cole, gave up your seat for my daughters without knowing who they were." Her gaze locked on his, steady and searching. Ethan swallowed. The crowd around them blurred into motion, but her eyes pinned him to the spot. "I didn't know," he said finally. "They just looked scared. That's all I needed to see." Olivia's lips curved, not quite a smile, more like quiet astonishment. "Most people wouldn't have done what you did. Not these days. People talk about kindness, but when it costs them comfort, they turn away." Ethan shifted his backpack on his shoulder, uncomfortable under the attention. "I didn't think about it much. I just did what felt right." "That's exactly what makes it remarkable," she said softly. "You acted on instinct. You didn't stop to measure what you'd gain or lose." Her tone softened as she glanced back at the twins, who were busy showing Sophie the stuffed bunny. "You gave up a luxury seat, but you gave them something far more valuable: safety, trust, the simple kindness of a stranger who cared." Ethan exhaled, feeling oddly exposed. It was nothing heroic. Olivia tilted her head. "That's where you're wrong. True decency doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It shows up quietly, when no one's watching." He tried to laugh it off. "You're giving me too much credit. I'm just a mechanic who fixes cars and gets lucky upgrades." Her eyes sparkled faintly. "I've built an empire of airplanes. Mr. Cole, I've met billionaires, politicians, actors, but people like you, the ones who give without expectation, they're rare, priceless." Ethan didn't know how to respond. He looked at the floor, then back up at her. "You don't have to thank me." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "But I want to. You reminded me that this company, this world, still depends on people like you. I spend my life surrounded by contracts, profits, and rules. Yet you broke every unspoken rule of self-interest in one simple gesture." Ethan rubbed his hands together nervously. "I really didn't do it for attention." "I know," she said, "and that's why it means more." Her tone had changed. The cold professionalism that marked her entrance had melted away, replaced by something genuine, something almost tender. "Can I ask you something?" she said suddenly. Ethan nodded. "Why did you do it? You could have stayed in that seat and no one would have judged you." He hesitated, searching for the right words. "Because I know what it's like to see your kids scared and not be able to fix it. I've been that parent. I've seen that fear. And if someone had offered me help back then, I would have remembered it forever." Olivia's eyes softened. For the first time, she looked less like a CEO and more like a mother, tired, vulnerable, human. "You lost someone, didn't you?" she asked quietly. Ethan nodded once. "My wife, 2 years ago." There was a long pause. Olivia looked at him with understanding that required no words. "I'm sorry," she said simply. He gave a small nod. "It's all right. Life moves on." "Maybe," she said. "But sometimes, life finds a way to remind you that good things still exist. Today, that reminder was you." Ethan chuckled softly. "I think it reminded both of us." So Olivia smiled now, a real smile that reached her eyes. "You're right. It did." She reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a sleek black card embossed with silver letters. "Here," she said, "my direct line. You won't need to go through anyone. If you ever need a flight, help, or even a favor, call this number, no questions asked." Ethan looked at the card, hesitant. "I can't accept that." Her gaze steadied. "You already did, Mr. Cole. When you chose kindness without knowing who it was for." He held the card between his fingers, unsure whether to laugh or cry. The metallic letters of Silver Sky Airlines glimmered under the fluorescent light. The twins hugged Olivia, asking to see Ethan again. He thanked her for raising kind children, leaving a lasting impression on him as she departed. Ethan Cole had never been the kind of man who believed in miracles. He believed in oil-stained hands, long shifts, overdue bills, and doing what needed to be done. Life had taught him that good things rarely came without a price. But standing there in Heathrow Airport, staring at the elegant woman who was the CEO of the airline he had just flown with, he felt something shift inside him. Olivia Grant watched him for a moment, her eyes tracing the humble confusion written across his face. She saw a man who was both uncomfortable and genuine. A man who didn't know how to accept gratitude because he never expected it in the first place. "You're not used to being thanked, are you?" she said quietly. Ethan gave a small, awkward laugh. Not like this. Usually, I get paid with a handshake or a discount coupon for fixing someone's brakes. Olivia smiled faintly. That explains a lot. She reached into her blazer pocket and pulled out her phone. Her fingers moved quickly, typing something with precision and purpose. Ethan stood there, shifting his weight, unsure if he should say something or wait. Then she looked up at him again, her tone calm but firm. You know, people spend years trying to impress me. They send gifts, proposals, sponsorships. But today, the only person who made an impression didn't even know my name. Ethan blinked, caught off guard. I didn't do anything special. Olivia tilted her head, studying him. You gave up a first-class seat without hesitation. You gave my daughters a moment of safety when they were scared. That may not sound like much to you, but to me, it's everything. You showed them what decency looks like in a world that often forgets. She tapped her phone one last time and then slipped it back into her pocket. Reaching into her briefcase, she pulled out a sleek, matte black business card. The Silver Sky logo shimmered faintly in embossed silver under the fluorescent light. She held it out to him. This, she said, is not just a card. It's a promise. Ethan looked at her hand but didn't take it. What do you mean? Her voice was steady, low, and deliberate. From this moment on, you're authorized for lifetime first-class access on every airline under Silver Sky. Anywhere, anytime. No questions, no restrictions. Ethan's brow furrowed. You can't be serious. I'm very serious, she replied. This is my way of saying thank you. He shook his head immediately. I can't accept something like that. It's too much. Olivia's expression softened, but her tone remained unwavering. Mr. Cole, I don't give gifts. I don't mean, this isn't charity. It's recognition. You reminded me of something I had almost forgotten. Ethan's voice was quiet. Forgotten? Her eyes drifted toward the twins, now playing with Sophie near the waiting area. Yes, when you lead a company like mine, everything becomes numbers, schedules, profit margins. You start believing success is measured in money and miles, but you reminded me that humanity is still the first class we all need to fly in. He exhaled slowly, unsure how to respond. You don't owe me anything. Miss Grant? She smiled gently. Maybe not, but gratitude isn't about debt. It's about acknowledgement. And today, I choose to acknowledge you. He hesitated, still reluctant. You really don't have to. Olivia stepped closer, her eyes meeting his with quiet intensity. Ethan, you already accepted it. The moment you gave up that seat, you accepted this moment because the world needs to pay attention when someone still chooses kindness over convenience. Her words landed heavy, sincere. Ethan found himself looking down at the card she was still holding out. The Silver Sky logo caught the light again, reflecting a faint halo on the floor. Finally, he took it. The surface was smooth, expensive. His name, Ethan Cole, had already been engraved on the bottom corner in subtle silver letters. He stared at it in disbelief. You had this printed already? Olivia smirked. I'm efficient. He laughed under his breath, shaking his head. This doesn't feel real. It's as real as the way you made my daughters feel safe, she said. For a moment, silence stretched between them. The kind of silence that carries meaning, not awkwardness. Around them, travelers passed, announcements echoed, but neither of them moved. Ethan slipped the card into his pocket. I don't know how to thank you, Olivia replied softly. You already did. Mr. Cole. When you reminded me that some people still do the right thing without expecting a reward. He gave her a small, tired smile. If more people thought like that, maybe the world would be a little easier to live in. She nodded slowly. Maybe that's why people like you exist, to remind the rest of us that decency isn't extinct. The twins came running back, clutching their bunny and giggling. Chloe tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mommy, can we sit next to Mr. Ethan next time we fly? Olivia crouched down, smiling. I think Mr. Ethan might be sitting in first class again soon. Claire tilted her head. Because he's special? Olivia looked at her daughters tenderly. Because he was kind, Ethan felt a lump rise in his throat. He crouched down to meet the girl's eyes. "You two take care of your mom, okay?" Chloe grinned. "We will, but you have to promise to visit us." He chuckled. "I'll try." As the girls ran ahead toward the exit, Olivia lingered. She turned back to him one last time, her voice quieter now. "You know," she said, "when my husband died 5 years ago, I promised myself I'd never depend on anyone again, that I'd build everything with my own hands. But today reminded me that strength isn't about doing everything alone. Sometimes it's about letting goodness in when it finds you." Ethan's chest tightened. "I lost my wife too, 2 years ago." Olivia looked at him with quiet understanding. "Then maybe that's why you recognized what my girls needed. You knew that fear." He nodded, eyes heavy. "Yeah, I did." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The noise of Heathrow blurred again. Just two people, both scarred by loss, both standing in the same fragile light of gratitude and understanding. Olivia straightened her blazer, regaining her composure. "Well, Mr. Cole, I hope this is not the last time we meet." Ethan gave a small grin. "With a first-class pass for life. I guess that's up to fate." Olivia laughed softly, the sound almost musical. "Then let's hope fate has good taste." He laughed too, a sound that came from somewhere deep in his chest, a place that had forgotten how to feel light. As Olivia turned to leave, she paused for just a heartbeat, then looked back over her shoulder. "Ethan," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "Yes." She smiled, not the polished smile of a CEO, but the warm, human one of a woman who had been moved. "You reminded me that the sky belongs to everyone, not just those who can afford it." He didn't know what to say. He just nodded, his throat tightening. "Take care of those girls." "I will," she said. "And you. Keep being the kind of man who makes the world worth flying in." Then she walked away, her daughters skipping ahead, their laughter fading into the distance. Ethan stood there for a long while, feeling the weight of the black card in his pocket. He finally took it out again, turning it over in his hand. The embossed letters caught the terminal lights like silver stars. He whispered to himself, almost in disbelief, "First class for life." But even as he said it, he realized that wasn't the real gift. The real gift was the reminder that kindness still mattered. That one small act, made without calculation, could ripple out into something much larger. He took a deep breath and smiled a real smile, the kind he hadn't felt in years. Then he turned toward the exit, following the same path Olivia had taken. Outside, the London sky was soft with gray clouds and promise, and somewhere deep inside, Ethan Cole felt that maybe, just maybe, his life had just taken off again. As Olivia walked away, Chloe and Claire waved, their sleepy smiles glowing under the airport lights. Ethan watched them disappear into the crowd, a warmth blooming in his chest, as if his late wife was smiling somewhere beyond the clouds. Later, inside his quiet hotel room, his phone buzzed. "Your next flight has been upgraded. First class forever." He smiled. Kindness, it seemed, still had wings. A single father gives up his first-class seat for two little girls, unaware their mother is the CEO of the airline. His kindness changes everything. If you believe compassion can still change lives, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming stories on Echo of Kindness.